Okay. Session today, last contact session for the students on the Bellville campus. Online session, again, still on Thursday as usual. And then, can we just get clarity? People, can we just get clarity on next week? I need your consent for this. The official, pay attention and I'll ask you. No, it's fine. Again, just a proof that Gen Zs can't really multitask. Efficiently, they can, but not efficiently. Nothing personal. No, what I wanted to know is next week is study week for you. Okay. It means there's no second or third years on campus. First years will still have class. Okay, so I will still be here and do my classes. You stay at home, you go home and you get into that comfort zone of preparing for your exams. Remembering that next Wednesday is a public holiday. Doesn't mean anything for you because it's just another day to study. Okay, right about this time of year, it's immaterial if you have a public holiday. But there are people, you should know, it's Youth Day. Oh, but you're not youth, you're young adults, right? But you should know. Anyway, but that's next Wednesday. However, I still am available, and even during the exams. So if the class rep, for instance, drops me a mail and says, "Sir, we have got a couple of questions that we want to ask you before the exam," I'll send you a link and we do an online session. Okay. I would love to, and I've actually worked it into my program for next week. I'd like to keep it on the days that you usually have consumers. That's a Tuesday and a Wednesday, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be the first period. Okay. What time next week? What day next week? Tuesday or Thursday? Would you like to have a formal session where it's a question and answer session? Assuming that you are going to start with your revision already.
I think maybe
rather the Thursday?
Yeah.
So you probably would have gone through more work and might have more questions.
Because we have other subjects.
I know. Yeah, and it is official now. You have received your notifications of the exam timetable. You know that you're writing on the 29th. Okay. And that you see the time as well? Okay.
So I'm just a little confused about the time because it says it's open from
11 to 3. Yeah.
So does that mean you have 4 hours to write? Or does that mean you have to use 3 or 2 of those hours to write? You know what I'm trying to say?
I got the timetable yesterday as well. Okay, so we usually get the timetable once you've received it. So we get a notification that this is what went out to the students. Okay, so there's no confusion and mixed messages going out. I went through the timetable this morning in detail for the first time and I picked up on the time. So I'm going to follow up because initially I was under the impression that it was available the whole day because of the potential of load shedding. Okay, but then I saw on the timetable that came out that you guys received as well, that is between 11 and 3 p.m. Which basically means if it's interpreted like it's currently available to you and to me, unless, and I can confirm that by Thursday when we have another session, or I will confirm that. But it means that you have to complete your 3 hours within that allotted time slot, like we did last June. Okay, that's currently what's on the table. If there's anything else, then because I would like to just find out why that time, why not 8 to 11?
The thing is that I read on one of the emails things I sent you that if we have load shedding, we can come to campus. And right here, but South Africa, you only know if you have load shedding like 2 hours before the time.
5 minutes? Try 5 minutes? Yes.
Like the levels change within an hour. And
yes.
It's just load shedding.
Good news! We're going down to level 1. Bad news! It starts at 5 minutes. That kind of thing. Yeah, no, we're quite familiar with that.
So it's going to be difficult, especially for the people like living in Houston and everything, to just come to campus because they've load shedding.
That's the one thing. And have you brought it to their attention? Have you had any feedback as from even from a SCR point of view?
Yes, so we have spoken about it, and I think one of the reasons why they said that they can't open it for the whole day. Is to limit like
the technical support and the cheating.
Yeah, because then someone can do it in the morning, someone can do it in the afternoon. Whereas if it's just 4 hours, it limits the time that students can use to cheat. If you're busy with, if you start your 3 hours in the first hour, and I start mine, I have to start in the second hour. And if you're still busy, you're not going to help me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But if you've completed it and you want to do yours after shift or after work this evening, then you can actually chat to somebody who's done it. Yeah. No, it makes sense. And I think that was I've also, it came to my attention that there's also a function that we are investigating. I heard it from another college, a colleague of mine, that it's apparently a setting that you can activate. But if you leave your access tool, and you're further away than a certain distance from it, and it cuts out. So I mean, obviously, to avoid people from cheating and whatever, it's just another tool. But I mean, it's not in place at the moment. But yeah, it made sense in that, because that was the reasoning last year as well, why the time was limited. Again, include it on your exam instructions, because I'm loading all the exams onto Canvas on the coming weekend. That's to be done by, it has to be done by Monday next week. But read your instructions. Under your instructions, there will be a 086 number, that WhatsApp number that you can phone if you have technical issues. Let's say, for instance, you didn't know it was load shedding. All of a sudden, when you started, load shedding happened like half an hour into your exam. Okay, then you have to contact that number immediately. There's also an email that you can. Both those will be in those blocks at the top when you start your exams. When you read the instructions under the general instructions, you will just immediately it will be on that. I suggest that I'll send out an announcement as well when I confirm the date for next week, and send you a new link. It won't be the current link that we're using. It will be a completely new link that's created. So it's not going to be on the calendar. It's going to be in the announcement. Okay. But I'll also include those two numbers. Write them down, because if the power just fails and you're busy, then it's you've got a dark screen, so you can't go back to that number because the number is on there. Okay, so write that number and the email address down somewhere on a hard copy, on a notepad, so you have it when the power does. And let's cross our fingers. But again, you can't plan for that. My son was writing fortunately, and that's why the IT guys, for instance, when they do their practice, they all have to do it here. Because if it's a power failure, then the generator kicks in, so it doesn't affect the exam. And I think that's the reasoning for coming into campus. But it is difficult, and then also alternatively for students who do not have access or secure access, and almost unlimited access to internet, wherever they stay, that they can book in advance to sit in a classroom. Somebody can sit here in the library. There are measures in place to accommodate those students, and there are quite a few.
So this might be a really stupid question, but there wasn't any clarification on it. Are the upcoming exams open book? I know I think you said that yours.
Yes. To be honest with you, when that question was asked, I thought, you know what, if it's online quiz, I mean, how can I prevent and how can I control if the student does not use this? I can say it's an open book, and then you have access to your textbook. If I say it's a closed book exam, how do I control that it actually is?
Yeah, and how do you make sure that the one person is doing that the next person?
Correct. I think it was given as an option to us to indicate, because there are some exams that happen on campus. That's a written exam where there will be invigilator. In a case like that, obviously it will be a closed book. But then there's no way that I can police you using your textbooks or any other resources while you're at home. Obviously, we all know with open book is tougher. Not that because you still have to know where it is in the textbook.
So, and I think I'm pretty sure that, as you said, that they're going to make the tests more on an application basis.
Yeah.
Apply it to. And not list.
Yes. Are you worried about that?
Yes. So Mr. T is a good lecturer and he makes difficult like he designs really difficult exams.
Yeah, no, he sets an industry standard there. Yeah, I think if you, that's one of those modules. If you pass that, but that's the essence, and to me, the core module of the course that you have chosen. That specific subject, if it's accounting or if it's digital marketing or if it's economics, or that should be the toughest exam.
Yeah.
If I study BCom accounting, then the accounting paper must be the one that's going to differentiate me from somebody else. Otherwise, everybody would have done accounting. It was easy.
Yeah.
So it's that I found from my own studies it was there as well. That particular major subject was the one that was always the toughest paper. And it should be like that. No, it should be like that. But anyway, any questions? I mean, because as I'm browsing through the chapters and I'm getting a general feel just to get an idea. People, customer perception, and from here on, I'm going to more sort of attend to general issues. And as I said, all the exam papers, the F3s, the formal test have been marked and is being moderated. So the results, I know I can give you general feedback on that, and I think I will do on Thursday. If I've not got clearance from the moderator yet. Assignments, I'm going to finish within the next day, hopefully. Yeah, yes, yeah, I will finish the next day, and then the moderator will get that too. And I'm prioritizing the second and third years because the first year still have another week next week. Okay, so I can actually still, when I'm done with yours, I can start theirs. And their big group, 60 odd students, their assignments came in last Friday. So yes, it's a bit of a mountain, but I'm prioritizing the second and third years, like I've prioritized the formal test ahead of the assignment. But the assignment I initially thought was going to mark a bit, it's going to be a bit more difficult to mark. It actually, once you're on a roll, it's actually okay. It has a nice flow to it. Sometimes you don't find that with your online quizzes and tests. But Warren, you've got a question there.
So I just want to ask, how many chapters have we done so far in consumer behavior?
In consumer behavior, we've done everything that we should do. That would be, if I grab my textbook just for confirmation, the question was, and let's do the confirmation here on what you have to prepare for the exam, which is basically the entire curriculum. Great, relevant question at this point. So those who are not online, watch the recording. I will send out a general announcement on Canvas. I will post it this afternoon. It will carry confirmation of the session next week. The time, obviously, it can't be on the time that I still have a first year class. Okay, so we'll decide that before we leave today, and that's the time that I will confirm with the link in the announcement. I will also again remind you of the date and the times of the exam, and I will also remind you of the chapters that's covered. Okay, just in case, because if you miss it here, you catch it somewhere else. But basically, what we have covered in this year was we did chapter 1, which is the introduction. We didn't do chapter 3. And 2, we did chapter 4, culture and subcultures. We did chapter 5, references, groups and social class. We did chapter 6, personal characteristics. Chapter 7 is perception and learning. 8 is customer motivation. 9 is, I'll summarize. Chapter 9 is custom attitude. 10 is personality and self-concept. 12, customer decision making. Those are the ones we do. So, in other words, let's just summarize that for the sake of some of us. Okay. Chapter 1, chapter 4, chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. Got that? I'll repeat it. It's 1, 4, 5, 6. In other words, it's 1 to 12, except 2, 3, and 9. 11, sorry. Chapter 1 to 12, excluding 2, 3, and 11. Two ways of saying the same thing. Everybody got that? Any questions? So confirmation for those playing the home game. We are writing consumer behavior on the 29th of June between 11 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. It's a 3-hour paper. In my final preparation, I'll give you more detail as to things that you need to pay attention to. In case of technical issues, interruptions, emergency load shedding, unplanned load shedding, there will be a 086 number as well as an email address that you can contact to notify them, because obviously they are the only ones who can take measures in cases like that. It's 100 marks, yes. And the chapters that we cover is chapter 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. Good. Not a problem at all. Any specific questions? Anybody? I know that you did not read this chapter in advance. Exactly. See, you don't even know the number of the chapter. Chapters. No, you know what? Mask on. Just think. Don't react. No, at least good spirit. And some people are still lying under their duvets, not even joining us online. Anyway, regardless of that, people, this chapter is pretty much perception. Perception is about how you interpret the information that no, one step back. How the customer interprets the information that they are being provided with through the marketing activities, and how they interpret that to form a picture for themselves based on the information they have on a particular product. Okay? Your senses are stimulated. Attention through the stimulation of your senses happen. You gather that information, you process that information, you interpret that information, and then you respond. That's basically the entire process. This is what this entire chapter of learning is about. How do we learn? We learn through those steps. And pretty much the backbone of this chapter is what they call the perceptual process. The perceptual process is nothing else as the process of information processing. The steps that I've just mentioned are the steps that you're going to go through to process the information that you receive. How much attention you pay to a particular stimuli is going to depend on a few things. One of them is the fact that the individual itself is going to play a role in your circumstances. Are you in a situation where you need, is it an emergency purchase that needs to happen? Because if it's an emergency, your reaction and response time to the stimuli will actually be much quicker, because you have to fix your problem now. If your stomach is grumbling, it's okay. We'll look at our watches. Yeah, okay, all right, another half an hour. I'll survive another half an hour. If it's actually the third period already and it's been happening since the first period, then you might get to a point where you're going to get up and go and leave the class in the middle just to satisfy your need. Or, for instance, you cut yourself. You're not going to say, okay, right, let me finish this lasagna. Once I'm finished with the lasagna, I should put it 25 minutes in the oven, whatever. Okay, right. Then I'll maybe attend to it. And no, you sometimes have to act immediately. Okay, if a snake bites you, what are you going to do? Okay, let's relax. Let's see if anything happens. I'll go to the doctor if my limb starts swelling, or if I start drooling in the mouth. No, you immediately react and respond, and in situations like that. So your circumstances is very much going to determine how you respond to and how quickly you process the information you have. The learning process very often is done. The learning process can happen in two ways. We learn in two ways. The best way for us to learn is through own experience. Once you try a product, well, it's the best way to find out if it's going to work and satisfy your needs or not, is to actually try it. Where marketers are clever is they give you the opportunity to try it in advance, to have a little trial. Take the car for a test drive. Take a sample of this sausage or this little new product and taste it. Okay, so it stimulates your senses. Based on that, you'll form a positive or negative attitude towards that particular item. You like it or you don't like it. You like it, you're most likely going to react and say, I'm going to actually, I'm going to buy it and try it. If it's the first time that you've tried, that particular product, it's going to immediately lead to a reaction of, that was a nice experience. Bank it in my memory, because remember, the recall is also part. That's what you want. You want your product to be positioned in such a place. It's like Formula One driving. Why do they have to qualify us? So you can get pole position to start the race. In other words, you've got the best position to start the race. That's exactly what marketers need to do with customers. They want their particular product through their persuasive advertising, all kinds of marketing communication, demos, publicity, direct selling, whatever methods they use and combine to get the message across. That all is in an attempt to do three things. A, to inform the customer, because that helps. The knowledge helps to learn. Secondly, to try and persuade them to buy your product and not the competitors. And thirdly, to remind them of new products coming out, remind them of the brand, like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is constantly still advertising. Why? You think it's going to affect their sales if they don't advertise? No, it's just reminding customers the whole time of, remember that last time you had a Coke, how nice it felt afterwards? Remind you of the experience you've had. So when you get to that point, you might not be thirsty now. So the ad is actually just, it's happening, but you're not really paying attention to it. They're doing it because they want to remind you that at that point you are very thirsty and you want to buy something. Boom. What is recalled is the image of, oh yes, that guy in Coke on that hot day, he was done. That is the purpose of reminding customers through repetitive advertisements. You know that sometimes that you've got those annoying ads. I'm very much, my TV time is limited by choice between 6 and 7 in the evenings. I watch MasterChef, I watch Survivor, I like these type of shows. But the most annoying thing is that it's always the same ad. I saw last night, I specifically paid attention to how many ads are shown. I know that's about every 10 minutes or 15 minutes they have a commercial break of about 2-3 minutes. The ads are usually 30-second ads, so you can squeeze about 3 or 4 ads into a break. 5 companies, only 5 companies repeatedly advertised in different orders, yes, during that hour. And they're all in the same industry. And strangely enough, I didn't realize it. They were all pet insurance ads. Oh, I thought, oh my goodness. Anyway, do I have pet insurance? Do I want to go out and get pet insurance because of the commercials I've seen? No. When I do get to a point where I have to make a decision to maybe get insurance for my pet because the expenses are too high every time I go to the vet, then boom, recall. That will be that annoying ad that's been repeated every single time that you actually don't pay attention to, but it actually sticks here in your mind. That's what marketers attempt to do. And that is part of your learning process. You learn through, okay, yeah, you're welcome to. The learning happens most effectively if you experience the item, if you can pick it up, if you can smell it. I mean, why is there dressing rooms in clothing retail stores? Why is there dressing rooms in clothing retail stores? Exactly. You try it on. So how does this t-shirt look on me? We know that they are playing games with you because the mirror is going to make you look much better than you would look at home. Anyway, If, in other words, if it doesn't look good in the mirror, yeah, it's not going to look good out there. But that's an example of trying it, going for a test drive on a vehicle that you want to buy. It's an opportunity for you to learn and experience. Experiential learning is the most efficient way of learning. With that, we actually gather information that we store, and hopefully we only, and believe it or not, customers are not going to just store the good experiences. They're also going to block certain products out because they remember the bad experience that they have. Okay, that's how they've processed the information. They don't just store in their minds the positive information. Yes.
Some car countries don't actually allow you to test drive the car. They will have some car for you, but that's not actually a good experience, for example. I don't know what you would call it. What would you call it? So they drive the car for you, but you personally want to test drive the car.
Yeah, I want to see. I mean, what's the distance between the pedals, and because sometimes I know vehicles are more high performance vehicles. They are closer to each other to manipulate the performance. But I can remember when I bought the car I have now, the salesperson got into the passenger seat and he allowed me to actually drive it myself. But I know some people, I can imagine if you're going to test drive a Lamborghini and you don't have proper training, that they might concern that something's going to happen during the test drive. Yeah. Oh, I suppose they won't insure it, but you know what? I'd rather not take my chances. So yeah, it is definitely it's a habit of some retailers not to allow you to actually test it yourself. I suppose you cannot when you're selling houses. Oh, you do like this flat? Well, just move in for a month and see how it goes. You know, some things just don't work. However, the majority of retailers, consumable goods, non-durable goods that you use on a regular daily basis, if you get an opportunity to taste it, it will be good. If it's an opportunity to experience it, you gather better information, clearer information, because it's your need that has to be satisfied in future or currently, depending on the situation. And then also we learn from other people's experiences by sharing. I mean, especially if the people that you share with, if we link this to the chapter on reference groups, you'll find that depending on the importance of a particular reference group on your decisions, you'll put value to those specific sources. Sometimes when you buy something, before you buy something, you bounce it off of these individuals because you would like their opinion. You value their opinion. That's another way of learning. It's where you learn from other people's experiences, and it's secondary information, but it's still better than nothing. If you have no idea if this product is going to work or not, but you have somebody who's tried it before and shared it with you and said, I'm not sure, you might be different, I enjoyed it. And if you know that person and you know that your tastes are rather similar to that individual, the chances are very good that you'll have a similar experience as well. But that becomes there's a very subtle nuance there, because I know that both my sons love tomato sauce on their fries, but the one is Heinz and the other one is All Gold, and they can taste it. If I blindfold them, they will not touch the one if it's not the correct one. I'm not full of nonsense, but anyway, how do you feel? I mean, what are you? What's your are you an All Gold person or Heinz person or Wellingtons? Yeah.
At the top, it would be the working tomato sauce.
Right.
And then it would be Heinz, McDonald's tomato sauce.
So what's working?
And then it would be.
What's working? I like working.
Okay,
I like the one.
They do. On a hot dog, their tomato sauce and mustard is actually superior.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works out. I don't know. I honestly. But then on the other hand, I was exposed, and that's just an example of learning. My father-in-law was a Heinz person. So when we visited, and obviously when you're newlywed, then obviously your expense, even your combined income is not sufficient. So you visit your parents and your in-laws quite often, you know, especially for yes, they have. Yeah, Heinz was actually the official one.
Yeah, they changed.
They've changed. They've got their own branding now, so I'm not exactly sure if it's just a McDonald's brand, and we are not sure if it might not be. It might still be Heinz, because that sometimes happen. It happens sometimes that they change the brand so they can use it as the additional branding tool, but the supplier is still Heinz. So they have an agreement with a particular supplier.
So my parents have become obsessed with Spar's mustard. They said it's the best mustard they've ever had.
Never tasted. Never tasted.
I don't like mustard at all.
Sweet mustard.
No.
No mustard.
Unless it's in something, like mixed in a sauce or food or something. I don't like.
Had a bad experience or just don't like the taste?
So we never had mustard in our house. Like it's not a thing.
Or maybe not separately, but maybe in the food you didn't know it.
Yeah.
It can often happen. You've got to mustard is an acquired taste. I mean, it's like red wine, or some people hate red wine. They can't stand red wine. And then, well, that's a circle of life. I mean, you leave at school. What do you guys drink at school? You're not supposed to drink at school. Oh. What do you drink after the age of 16 when you are permitted to maybe? Okay, and alcoholic. Something that tastes nice. Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
Spins that taste like
okay. That's specifically targeted the 18 to 21-year mark. Or you don't like that, but you go with beer. And then as I know my my evolution was as follows. First year at varsity, beers. Second year at varsity, white wine. Third year at varsity, red wine. And then when you go post-grad student, you can't drink that stuff anymore. Okay, it's got to be it's got to be brandy or whiskey preferably. But I mean, that was my sort of evolution over a period of time, and I think it happens. Yes, it's almost as if when you start experimenting, nobody experiments with whiskey as a first drink, because it's and that's why they start with stuff like spins, and they start with fruity alcoholic beverages, because it tastes nice. And it has a lower alcohol content as well. So those are all benefits if you are going to start experimenting. Yes, Warren.
So I know that I started off drinking spins, and then I went to rosé, and I prefer white wine, but I still like the late little rosé.
Spin always remains the best. It's like this.
Sweetness
But it's not really the sweetness is not very good. Like sugar.
I think that's what you find out eventually. Is oh, hang on, it tastes very nice. The brandy is not the bad part of the brandy and Coke deal. The Coke is.
Yeah.
Okay, but I've never taken to it. Never in my life.
Drink Red Bull and
Not bad, it says, actually on the Red Bull can it says do not mix with vodka.
Exactly.
And they actually do it.
But that's on the menu. Don't do it, but it's on the menu. How did you? Would you say that the majority of your learning happened as novice consumers, because a lot of you still don't buy household goods on a regular basis because you're still staying with your parents, and although your influence on what they purchase is present, you're actually not the payer in the transaction yet. You contribute maybe. I know my son contributes. I said to him, well, you can stay at home as long as you want. You can contribute to that in actually preparing meals, but also deciding on what needs to be in the cupboards, and also contributing financially. And then we'll do more on this side, but then you can invest money in your own vehicle. Okay, save money for a vehicle, and then we'll help you buy the vehicle, but it's yours. That's your responsibility. Your monthly paycheck, boom, chip, money towards the car goes off there. Food and digs We still pay for. Because I mean, it's life. Life is expensive at the moment, and it does make sense we want to be as independent as possible and as quickly as possible, but you also don't want to be a yo-yo kid that sort of for 2 years out of the house and you're back because it's tough out there, and then you actually right again, and then you're off on your own again because you can't stay under the same roof, and then 3 years later you're back again, kind of thing. But well, yes.
So why do we pay so much more petrol for either one that use it and water? I don't understand. We pay so much for petrol, it increases monthly. And we still pay the majority of it. When countries that get imported to them, don't pay that much.
Ever since I started doing, and I did it for more than 20 years, marketing in Namibia, recruiting Namibian students to study in South Africa, I still don't have to answer to that. I pay less for my own petrol in Namibia than I pay for it here. So I would suggest you hack into Zoom or Team sessions that they have in Parliament and ask them that question, because I don't have the answer to that, because it doesn't make sense. Electricity is exactly the same. We pay. They want 18% again in July now. Yes, on top of it, that would be a minimum of 15% increase per year for the last 5 years running.
And we're producing less electricity now than we were like 10 years ago.
Yes, because the coal is wet. That's the reason, or that's the excuse. Not the reason. They haven't maintained anything. How can 40% of your capacity be under pressure because it hasn't been maintained? What have you been doing? And then you start, and then you find engineers from Cuba. You import engineers because we have an unemployment rate of close to 40%, officially 32%. We have qualified, skilled individuals. And we import specialists. I don't know. If there's obviously a shortage in a particular industry, that makes sense. But not if there's engineers here not having any jobs. But anyway, let's get off the political topic. Yes.
I've got the topic referring back to when you said that your son's gonna work towards getting his funding. I have a friend who is working at the moment, and she is too afraid to leave her job.
Yes.
Because she's getting money and she's becoming independent. And I sat her down one time. Obviously, I left my job and then I got another job and things like that. And I said, at this age, I think it's the perfect time to take risks. Because when you're 30 and you have a family, or 35 and you have a family,
you're not going to take those risks.
You're not going to take the risks.
No.
So when you're going to get comfortable in not being happy with your job and getting that income, but you're not going to be taking risks. And then I said, the fact is that we're also 19, 20, and some of us have the privilege of our parents being able to not give us an abundance of money, but just pay for the things that they can pay. The petrol. Yeah, so I said now is the perfect time to do it, because she wants to be independent and things, and I get that. But you must always keep in mind that do it now, because now you have your parents to always fall back. I know it sounds wrong coming out from mouth, but it's true. Your parents, it's not they're going to be okay, you must pay for everything, and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not like that. You also have a bed sleeping, you still have food on the table and things like that.
This year I'll be working for 33 years. In the 33 years, I have worked in the first 10 years. I've worked for I've had 7 different jobs. Since then, only 2. Okay, so that proves your point. It proves your point that yes, definitely, if you are doing job hopping, do it now before you actually commit it and have responsibility in towards a family. It's like studying as well. I'm going to study again, but I'm not going to study until my kids are actually employed and working and completely independent, because time-wise, to start with, is actually, and that's why a lot of people say, well, why didn't you dropped out of school in grade 10 and actually they got married before you were 20 and you had a family before you were 21, kind of thing, and then the kids are out the house by 45. And you say, well, they are finishing school, they're doing the matric at the age of 45, 50 plus, whatever, because they never really had an opportunity, and they stepped up and took responsibility for the situation, and well, taking care of other people in that sense. But that's just that's how things work. That's
So
how.
I think we spoke about it either in this module or business marketing.
Yes.
And we said that the loyalty to a business isn't something that's found in the latest generation.
No.
Like, for example, my uncle used to work with the in Coca-Cola.
Yes.
And he drove for them for 50 years. And that's the only job he had. But for us, we want to experience as much as we can. So then, like you said, we job.
I think Warren, yes, and the question here is basically staying at home, contributing as opposed to being independent. I think you learn much quicker if you're on your own. Our parents will always back us. That much we know. It depends, I think, from one character to the other. Certain personalities are just as such that they will not survive on their own immediately. But more importantly for me, I think, is the fact that we in the past had, and previous generations, I'm talking, for instance, my parents, it was the values system of particular cultures, because we had very limited access to other cultures in our country, and we had almost no exposure to values outside of the borders of our country. People didn't travel as much in the 50s and the 60s. The world has since obviously grown and at an alarming rate, which means that where the choices, when my parents finished school, there were two choices: you go to work or you go and study. My grandfather was a butcher, and I'm not sure what my grandmother did. That was my father's stepmother, and I know she did certain trades during the Second World War in concentration camps. She was German, and Jewish, and my father was the oldest of four, and he wasn't given a choice because his younger sister was still in grade 6, I think. So who's going to pay for her school fees? You go out, you work, no choice. And he never actually graduated with any formal qualification, because where's the time? You start working, you start earning money, and all of a sudden, you work yourself into a certain position, and then what's the point?
And that's how they became loyal to the businesses.
Exactly. And that's why they stayed with businesses. My dad worked for his first company for 25 years, and then basically for another one for 10, and then he started his own business, in the same industry, basically. But that was and then for me it was a bit different. We still had the option, or not the option, the added we still had to do compulsory national service. So you were either going to do it after studying or before studying or working. You had a choice immediately after school, or but you can't study for 10 years and then no, you're going to go. I did it the other way around. I studied first and then I did my national service. But I have to admit, especially in a very important learning stage of your life, between 18 and 21, where a lot of learning happens through own experience. When you're a child, there are certain things that you learn from own experience, but very often your choices are provided are limited and provided by your formal structures and your informal reference groups. Your parents tell you, you've got two choices. It's that or that. Okay. Right? So you pick one. Later on, as you progress, and especially when you reach the age of 18 to 21, your learning process happens more through personal experience. You're trying it yourself. It might not be that you are buying it yourself yet, but you have made a decision based on your own learning experience. And I think one thing that I can say my national service provided me was, for me, it was a bit of a lust because I've traveled the world and I've studied, and I was 25 when I did it, as opposed to somebody who just finished school. But obviously I did it with people who have just finished school. You could see how confused those 18-year-olds were, but you could also see how much it helped them to actually find their feet, to figure out what they really want. And that's why currently, because you have less opportunities to provide you exposure to situations where you can figure that out, your job environment provides that to you. And that's why you're job hopping, because you actually are not sure if this is really what you'll find what works for you. But really, at the age of 18, how many of us actually knew exactly what we want to be? A lot of learning in your cases happen with your through your studies, your 3 years at a college or a university, because you're exposed to a greater variety of options. People have different circumstances. When you're in school, you basically are friends with the people who are in the same area as you, because you go to the closest school. And you might not like everybody, but the fact is that, hey, this is where I am. So very much geographically exposure you receive in that regard. But now it's vastly. People are from all over. They're from the southern suburbs. They're from Somerset West. They're from Manus, Worcester, Namibia, Uppington, all thrown together in the same course, exposed all of a sudden to different ways of thinking and different cultures and different value systems. And that helps your learning process. Yes, Warren.
So I think it's quite sad to think about the opportunities that we have now compared to the opportunities that our parents and grandparents had.
Yeah.
I know that both my parents have never worked for another job, so they've been loyal to both their companies.
Yes.
And my dad also did the Navy. My dad was in the Navy, and then when he was 20, he started working in the post office.
Mm-hmm.
And through there, they obviously trained him and things like that, and gave him more promotions and studies and all of that. So that's why he's loyal to them. And my mom didn't even get her matric, and she was given opportunity to either study in nursing or hairdressing. That was the only choice that she had.
Yeah.
And it was because like he says, when they have to look after their siblings, something like that. So my mom didn't have the chance to give him the trick because she had to look after it.
Did she eventually start liking what she did? Where initially it was a sort of a, by default, you have to make a decision because food on the table, and then you do something that you don't really enjoy, and then later on you find out, you know what, I actually have a specific skill. Yeah. And I think that very much, you're quite right. I mean, the environment, your working environment contributes to that. Somebody said to me the other day, why don't you, immediately when I lost my job 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, Jesus, time has flown. But he said, you started 3 businesses on your own already. Why don't you start another one? I said, you know what? I don't think I want to. I'm ready not to want to. I've been my own boss for my whole life. But you know what? As a matter of fact, I just, no. I'd prefer to rather not have that stress. One of the reasons why people eventually, when they scale down and don't want to take that responsibility anymore, in hindsight, it probably was, I would have hated to do my previous job currently in the COVID situation, because it would have been very stressful. But again, loyalty from previous generations. I would say baby boomers were the last ones to really sort of be very loyal. Again, because their learning experiences were limited, but also their choices were limited because, as I said previously, at one conference a couple of years ago, MEC for Education said to me that it's an ever-evolving, she was one of the keynote speakers, it's an ever-evolving situation. 25% of jobs that will exist next year, this time, we're not even aware of at the moment. And that's technology has fast-tracked that. Now we add a pandemic to that, and people are now forced to actually think creatively and entrepreneurial, and they come up with things that probably wouldn't have come up if this wasn't forced on us, which is great. There's always that silver lining to a learning experience like this. But having interaction with people who've had COVID and who are recovering from it, I wish it on nobody. I can just see if you knew the personality before and how the personality has changed because of just that experience, it's frightening. Anyway, we're lucky. Touch wood. Stay safe.
The baby boomers, they know digital marketing. When they got told, like, when I'm trying to study digital marketing, they look confused, and I'll just say computers. So like everyone in my whole family like calls me like with a TV break. I'm like, oh, I don't know any of this.
Listen, guys, we've reached the end of the session today. I would like to just leave with one final thing. As we wind down, we've got to make a decision. Got to make a decision about our session. Not this week. This week we still have a third period on Thursday. Yes. Next week, you've got two choices. You have two choices. That would be Tuesday the 15th. Tuesday the 15th, and again we fortunately with these individually arranged sessions, we don't have to limit ourselves to an hour. Okay, it could be shorter, it could be longer. Right. First, second, or third period next Tuesday. First, second, or third period next week, or Thursday next week, the third or the fourth.
Thursday,
Thursday the third period, which would be the usual time on a Thursday. Okay. I'll post an announcement this afternoon. I'll include that information about the exam, just a reminder, those contact details if you have technical issues, and I will also send you the link for next Thursday's session. Okay, enjoy the rest of the day. Anybody, any questions, you're more than welcome to mail me.